It's finally safe to say that it's never too late to save our country. It seems like Canada is back on a path of redemption. It seems like we're headed in the right trajectory with Pierre Poilievre and with the entire narrative socially and just how the momentum is picking up. And then it also seems that way in America. We're going to be taking a look at quite a few different things today. Pierre Poilievre does an interview with a reporter and leaves them pretty speechless. Tucker Carlson has a few comments to make about Justin Trudeau, as well as the Secret Service member or the head of the Secret Service is testifying today, and it seems like she's going to get canned or forced to resign due to the incompetence which led to the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. We got quite a few topics to cover today, so I hope you stick around for the full thing. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And without further ado, let's just get into it. So the polls are looking updated. They were sitting at 214 projected seats for the Conservatives. Somehow they've gone down 2 points to 212, or 2 seats to 212, which is fine. Bottom line of 179. They still only need 172 seats, so we're still looking very good there for majority government. Top end at 234. Justin Trudeau has gone up somehow, even though he hasn't really been in the news. The only news that has really occurred in the past couple of days is the fact that Justin Trudeau is going on vacation again for 2 weeks right before they do this really large Liberal cabinet shuffle. And then when you look at the odds of winning the most seats, it's still at 99% likely for the Conservatives and 99% likely for a majority government. So a little bit of a downward trajectory, a couple of points, but sometimes you got to take one step back to take 2 steps forward type of thing. So now let's take a look at our first story here. You have Global News is purging their employees. They've announced more layoffs of their parent company, Chorus Entertainment. Chorus Entertainment sees their stock value drop to a record low of 11 cents. They are getting rid of everyone within Chorus, which is the parent company to Global News. Not a good look. Not a good look for mainstream media. Next up, you have a Canadian passport holder, Kawarshi Kakaria Adam, allegedly entered Israel on Sunday on a tourist visa. Drove to the Gaza border and attempted to stab an IDF soldier. He was killed by the IDF. Canadian citizen attempts terror stabbing at Mosav near Gaza is shot dead. Wow. That is wild. I mean, I don't think it's a good look for the fact that that person had a Canadian passport, but I mean, we do hand them out, so I'm not very surprised. Toronto Star is publishing an article here saying Pierre Poilievre was 20 years old when he wrote about what he would do as prime minister, and here's what he said, and here's what he says now. The Conservative leader's entry into as prime minister, I would contest in 1999 provides a glimpse into Poilievre's earliest thoughts on governance and how government and the economy ought to intersect. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre might be just over a year away from becoming prime minister, but he's been thinking about what he'd do for the job for more than 25 years. And then we can't see it because it's behind a paywall, which is very frustrating because it's 2024 and the media is pretty much dying, so why even provide a paywall? But if I'm going to go out on a limb and say, first of all, Toronto Star just admitted that Pierre Poilievre is likely to be the next prime minister of Canada, which is a huge step for the progressive media outlet in which Toronto Star is. So kudos to them for finally admitting the truth. Second of all, there hasn't really been any inconsistencies in Pierre Poilievre's rhetoric for many, many years. Even the furthest, oldest dated clip of the House of Commons or parliamentary footage of Pierre Poilievre, he's been spewing the same thing, right? It's been very consistent, and it really seems like he's the guy, he's the patriot that we need here in Canada to get back on track. And I just want to pass the question off to you. Are you all on board Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada's train, or are you still kind of teeter-tottering? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Next up, we have a bit of a, I don't know if this is an attack or if this is just to point something out, but it's kind of interesting. The churches of Pierre Poilievre, he's been courting conservative Christians with traditional values. What does it mean? We asked an expert. And this is so bizarre. because traditional values and the traditional lifestyle has been under attack for quite some time now. I mean, including the fact that there's men and women on this planet, that's been under attack as well. And I just don't understand how a husband who has a wife, who has kids, who works, can be under attack by the media in this way, and especially if he's a Christian, but that's somehow a headline. Pierre Poilievre is visiting a lot of churches these days. Oh my goodness, call the cops. The federal conservative leader has been sharing photos from his appearances at a variety of churches across the country. He's visited the Church of South India, the Coptic Church in Markham, All Nations Full Gospel Church, National Prayer Breakfast. In February, the Lunar New Year was particularly busy for Poilievre. He spent the countdown celebrations in Aberdeen Centre Mall in Richmond, BC, handing out red envelopes while wearing traditional tang suit in blue with a dragon pattern. The next morning, he made it to Sunday service at North York, Ontario's Triumph Chinese. Okay, so he's just all over the place, and he's being a politician. And look, we may not agree. I mean, I personally, I make fun of Justin Trudeau when he wears the getup of other cultures, right? It just seems over the top and pandering. But what has gone over my head is the fact that maybe it's not Justin Trudeau, or in this case, Pierre Poilievre, that is saying, I need to dress this certain way. Maybe it's them being asked. And yes, I am rethinking this entire situation because Pierre Poilievre does the same thing. So guilty. I'm guilty of that one. Absolutely. I could call it out when I see it. As Pierre Poilievre, and while Pierre Poilievre has visited mosques in the past, the Globe and Mail reports that he's halted those visits this year. Justin Trudeau may be known and lightly roasted for photo opportunities, but Poilievre has been collecting them himself and posting them on social media. Accompanying the images are his praises of patriotic Canadians, faith, family, and freedom. And I mean, yes, Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre both do photo ops, and they both wear the traditional clothing of other cultures. That, yes, that does happen. Do we pick on Justin Trudeau for doing that more? Yes. Is it because we like Pierre Poilievre more and we don't like Justin Trudeau? Yes. Does that make it that we have a bias? Next question, please. Justin Trudeau's mistress is back in the news. Jolie tells China top diplomat that Canada won't tolerate any form of interference in our democracy. And of course, that is through the Globe and Mail, and that's behind another paywall, so we can't really click on it. But that's very interesting because she just went to China unannounced. The only reason that we knew that she was going to China is because it was on the Chinese government's itinerary that Jolie was landing in China and greeted by the Chinese government. That's very bizarre to do like a secret trip to China for official business and not tell anyone, not it being announced, not on even her own personal itinerary. And somehow the takeaway from that trip is this headline. She went there to tell China, stay away, no more interference. I mean, no interference. I mean, no more interference. Please. Just wait. Maybe give us a little bit more money, and then we'll see how much interference you could. Next up, we have this clip of Pierre Poilievre with an interviewer where he just leaves him absolutely speechless by literally saying what's on the sticker, wacko Trudeau. It's quite funny. Let's take a look at this.
That is only your party which is saying that they voted against the bill and they don't want to support this bill C-381. What is the reason why they are not supporting it?
Because Justin Trudeau is a wacko.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay.
That's the answer.
Yes. Okay, yes. Like, he just leaves them literally speechless, ladies and gentlemen. That is totally awesome. I'd love to know what you guys think down below. Is Justin Trudeau indeed a wacko? Yes or no? Let me know what you guys think down below. Next up, we have Tucker Carlson, who's got a couple of things to say about Canada here.
I mean, Canada, of all countries in the world, I would say Canada is the closest in its sort of essential facts to Australia. It's huge. It's actually bigger than Australia. Second biggest landmass in the world. Amazing natural resources. An incredibly nice, polite, population, well-educated, with a history of valiant war service. You know, sort of everything you would want.
Never lost a war.
Boring. That's good. Exciting countries are wildly overrated. Las Vegas is exciting. You wouldn't live there, right? There's something to be said about a country whose, main forms of excitement are Molson and sled dogs. That's not bad. And that country basically killed itself through bad leadership. They completely changed the population of the country in 10 years completely and made it poor. And now people can't buy houses there. The economy's in free fall. People who are born in Canada cannot buy a house, period, because there are just too many people. And I'm sure some of them are great people.
Multiple truths have been said in that speech by Tucker Carlson, as well as the extended version where he just went on and talked for minutes, if not hours, about Canada. This is the issue with Canada, is that our population, believe it or not, is over 41 million. Somehow, Canada's population is somehow over 41 million. It still feels like Canada has low 30, maybe mid 30 million people, but somehow Canada has 41 million people, and I have seen a large part of BC. I've seen a large part of Alberta, and I have friends and family that, like, recently, right? And I have friends and family that live in Ontario, and so I see what's going on. And I can't think of a singular place other than, like, Edmonton, right, that has mass house building. Development in Canada has pretty much halted, and it's just so expensive. The cost of building a single family home, what used to be maybe $250,000, $350,000 for the builder, and then they'd sell it for $400,000, $500,000. It's now that price of what you used to pay for a house is what it costs the builder developers to make. So they're upselling it, right, to $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. It's just not sustainable. People can't afford that. Wages haven't gone up. It doesn't make any sense. And also, people aren't building. So 41 million people, I don't know. It feels like they're trying to push people into having 10 people of a family in a house. And it's not sustainable. And something needs to happen. We need to have this red tape, right? You hear that word a lot by Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative Party of Canada. They need to cut the red tape. What does that mean? Well, we've talked about it a little bit before, where right now, if you have $50 million and you want to, make a subdivision on a certain plot of land on, 10 acres of land or whatever it is, 15, 20 acres of land. Okay. You need to get permits. You need to get city permits. You need to get government permits. You need to get all these different types of permits in order to be able to build at different stages. And that is an application. You fill out forms, you get it all done, you notarize it, and then you send it off to the government, city hall, whatever it is, right? I've never been through that process because I don't have $50 million just lying around. And then someone somewhere reviews it. They call for questions if they need to, and then of course it gets sent back. Okay, you have the approval for this particular thing, and then you can do that particular thing. And then when you reach another impasse, same thing. You fill out the form, you send it away, someone reviews it. Well, that process takes years now. It shouldn't. It should take weeks, if maybe months, but weeks at most. It should be boom, boom, boom. People should just be building left, right, and center. It should be super incentivized to build massive amounts of houses, especially in a country that has 41 million people. And we don't have 41 million houses. We don't have 30 million houses. It doesn't make any sense. So where are these people living? They're stacking up. They're stacking up in their houses. Or, I don't know, maybe an increase in homelessness. Have you noticed that? So lots of different failures here in Canada that need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed very quickly. And speaking of failures, we're taking a look at a parade for Palestine, which turned out wasn't a failure. Turned out there was a shit ton, a metric shit ton of people that showed up. This was in Niagara. Let's take a look at some of this footage here. The police have closed the turnoff to Stanley Avenue in Niagara Falls, Canada, as a caravan for Palestine protests prepares to walk down to the Canada and U.S. border. And there was a overwhelming amount of police presence here that we're going to take a look at in a moment. Okay, so a good turnout there, but here's how many police officers there were. This looks like mini Vegas, so that would be Niagara.
The busiest street in Niagara. We want to make our voices heard for the people in Gaza. So we're going to be as loud.
I'm sure U-Haul appreciates the fact that their vehicles are being featured in this. Do you have any official statements there, U-Haul? Kind of bizarre. I'd like to see what happens from that. But of course, that last footage was from Karima, who is a non-biased journalist who does boots on the ground and captures all of this footage here. We also have another video. Let's take a look at this one. It's a good amount of people, good amount of vehicles, good amount of flags. Wow. But when you saw the police, they were just standing kind of near the border. In this last footage that we saw, I didn't really see any police officers, so I'm just kind of wondering if they're getting the same treatment as the Freedom Convoy or carbon tax protest, people that are waving Canadian flags that gather like that and stand on the side of the road and have vehicles that come by and they honk their horns. I wonder if it's the same level of treatment. And the answer has been no, it's not the same level of treatment, because that would be racist, right? You can't discriminate against Palestinian protesters. That's just racist, but you can discriminate against Canadians and Canadian protesters. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Next up, CTV has this article here about Justin Trudeau reacts to Joe Biden announcing that he won't run for re-election.
Good evening. It has been an astounding day in American politics. Joe Biden is surrendering after failing to crush the rebellion in his own party. He announced he will not run for a second term. In a statement, Biden says, "While it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down."
Okay. That's funny that you're using a footage of him walking down a set of flights there, or a set of stairs. I find it interesting that Joe Biden has criticized X, or formerly known as Twitter, because Elon Musk owns it, and he's saying that Elon Musk is censoring his speech, or Elon Musk is funding the Republican National Party with his millions of dollars, and he's just another billionaire who's manipulating elections, which is insane, because Mark Zuckerberg during the last election, if I'm not mistaken, donated millions of dollars to the Democratic Party and was a massive advocate in protecting the Democratic reputation and burying things on their behalf, as he was asked by the FBI. That all came out during a Joe Rogan podcast. Very wild stuff. This was not announced. Joe Biden, I was at Joe Rogan's. Joe Biden's resignation or his withdrawal from the presidential candidacy moving forward, that wasn't announced on a CNN video. That wasn't announced in a news video or a YouTube video. That was announced on X. He could have done Facebook. He chose any platform, any media outlet. He chose to do it on X, where Elon Musk owns that platform, and he heavily criticized it. And I just want to say that just goes to show how powerful X has really become under the new leadership of and the new branding that Elon Musk has done to it. Very, very impressive. How many times has this happened where a president who's supposed to run in a re-election has decided that he's going to withdraw from the re-election, not in a video format, but a text format, and he does it on X. Pretty impressive. I just wanted to throw that in there, but let's continue the video.
Last seen in public 4 days ago, appearing frail as he headed to his home in Delaware after testing positive for COVID. CTV's Washington bureau chief Joy Malbin tonight on the series of dominoes that fell following the U.S. president's poor performance in that debate with Donald Trump.
It is an extraordinary moment in U.S. politics. President Joe Biden recovering from COVID under political pressure to step down, poll after poll showing he's hemorrhaging voters. And after that disastrous debate performance,
to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with.
His voice raspy, losing his train of thought, he struggled.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president.
And the pressure to bow out became too much. In a letter to Americans, Biden wrote, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down." The president had been defiant.
And I am all in.
Despite growing calls from donors, Hollywood, and Democrats urging Biden to drop out.
I come with a heavy heart to think the time has come for him to pass the torch to a new generation.
The president is throwing his support behind Vice President Kamala Harris, endorsing her to be the nominee of the Democratic Party, passing the baton to the next generation. Harris, a former senator and California prosecutor, could become the first Black and Asian American nominee to hold national office. Issuing her own statement, Harris said she's honored to have the president's endorsement, saying, "My intention is to earn and win this nomination."
Yeah, but just because she's younger than Joe Biden and isn't as forgetful and sleepy as Joe Biden does not mean that she's any less stupid than Joe Biden. Kamala Harris is not and should not be president of the United States. And they're going to try and put this massive feminist twist on it, saying she's not only going to be the first female president, but she's going to be the first colored female president, and it's just going to be horrible. And they're really going to try and lean into that woke progressiveness, but it's too little too late. It's not going to work. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Next up, to end this video, we're taking a look at the Secret Service member who ran the entire operation. The head of the Secret Service is basically being told to her face that she needs to resign.
In his public statements, he has said he is making these statements because he wants people to take them into consideration in threat assessments, specifically. Now, that would be a threat not just to Donald Trump, but it would also be a threat to the crowd there, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Are ISIS terrorists and al-Qaeda terrorists and international groups and terrorists more capable than a 20-year-old in pulling off their mass shooting or an assassination of Donald Trump?
Sir, again, there was clearly a breakdown and a failure that day.
Have you read the intelligence of the terrorists that are currently in the United States that Director Wray speaks, and those individuals that are here that are affiliated with terrorist groups and organizations that are in the process, as Director Wray said, of representing a significant threat of a terrorist attack occurring in the United States?
I have read reports that apply specifically to the Secret Service's mission.
Director Cheadle, because Donald Trump is alive, and thank God he is, you look incompetent. If Donald Trump had been killed, you would have looked culpable. There is no aspect of this that indicates that there has been any protection to Donald Trump. The threat was identified before he took the stage, and the shooter was only killed after Donald Trump himself was killed. Not only should you resign, if you refuse to do so, President Biden needs to fire you, because his life, Donald Trump's life, and all the other people which you protect are at risk because you have no concept of the aspect that the security footprint needs to be correlated to the threat.
Wow. She absolutely does need to resign. This can never happen again. And this just shows weakness. It shows weakness on so many fronts for the United States. And this isn't a good look, because this is what a singular 20-year-old apparently has done by themselves. What's to say that an enemy country, an enemy foreign entity that hates America more than this random 20-year-old American, what can they do now? How do they view this? When a shark bleeds, when America bleeds like this, it just opens up the runway for this to happen more and more. And it's in all the movie plots that we've seen that are made in America. I mean, it's setting the precedent for some level of like White House down. And I mean, if it's ever going to happen, it would likely happen to Donald Trump. He's just hated by so many people. The media has really, really controlled that narrative. And that's why it's so dangerous. And they are not pulling back. They're doubling down on this narrative, and it's going to get worse. And I mean, that's why Donald Trump needs to be the president. He needs that updated security. He needs to be back in the White House. And I think that he's the only person that is fit for the job to make America great again, just like Pierre Poilievre is the only person that's fit for the job to make Canada great again. And that's going to be an incredible duo. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. That's where we're going to end the video, ladies and gentlemen. On your way out, I would like to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.